Hey everybody, Samuel Singer here, the founder and executive director of Wyoming Stargazing. Thanks for joining me and welcome to Mind Bending Astronomy. In every episode, we'll share with you, a mind-bending fact about astronomy. Now that we've explored string theory, it's time to move on to the other contender for the grand unified theory, loop quantum gravity. In the interest of full disclosure, I should tell you that I personally think that some form of loop quantum gravity is going to turn out to be the grand unified theory. The reasons for that are numerous, and they get us to the heart of what the grand unified theory needs to do. First, loop quantum gravity is probably background dependent. That's a must for the grand unified theory. What that means is that the equations have to work to describe the evolution of objects changing without needing a solid or static background against which to take measurements. That's what the theory of relativity does. It describes the motion of objects not as things moving on top of some immutable grid system, but rather as part of an interconnected ensemble in which the grid system changes with the things moving through it. Matter tells spacetime how to curve, and spacetime tells matter how to move. Loop quantum gravity achieves background independence by quantizing general relativity. Closed networks of the quantized space, loops, the size of which are at the Planck length, make up spacetime. The connections between those loops describe the structure of spacetime at the very smallest scales. On the other hand, quantum mechanics and string theory are background dependent. They necessitate a solid grid upon which to evaluate the evolution of particles or people. So that's one point for loop quantum gravity. The second reason I think loop quantum gravity will ultimately come out on top is because of how it deals with time. Currently, the equations of loop quantum gravity don't include time. Some argue that's a huge flaw in the theory. However, the equations seem to work without time as a variable. One interpretation of that is that time appears to be an emergent property without an independent existence of its own, like mass, as you'll remember from a previous episode. It's as if the entire universe is always now. If you're familiar with Eastern philosophy, you might note some similarities to that idea. Furthermore, quantum loop gravity doesn't require any special dimensions of space or supersymmetric particles like string theory does. Loop quantum gravity also seems to have a bit more potential to be testable in the near future, which is a big plus if it wants to be a scientific theory. To hear a much more detailed account of loop quantum gravity, check out the video we have in the transcript of this talk. Next time, we're going back to the beginning to take a look at the Big Bang Theory. Until then, be well, and don't forget to look up.